Hello everyone and welcome back to another Star Wars action figure review. Today we're taking a look at another figure from the Vintage Collection, once again an older figure from the line. This figure was made available as part of the second wave of the Resurrected Vintage Collection back in 2018, and it is of course another character from Solo: A Star Wars Story. It is the leader of the Cloud Riders, Enfys, and this is without a doubt one of the coolest characters to come out of that movie. A really nice design, really cool character in and of itself, and I'm just really happy that Hasbro decided to release this one as part of the vintage line. Now, this is the second version in the 3 3/4 inch scale of Enfys to be released. There's another one on the market available as part of the Force Link line, and that figure comes packed with her swoop bike, and we'll do a little bit of a comparison between the two figures later on in the review, as there are some pros and cons to the 5POA version and some pros and cons to the vintage release as well. So it's really going to be up to you guys which figure you prefer. But again, really cool figure, can't wait to share it with you in more detail. And before we do that, we are going to take a look at the packaging that Enfys comes in. Once again, as you can see, we do get that standard Vintage Collection packaging design. Got a really nice image of Enfys on the card itself, on Vandor 1 there, looking very cool. Got the Solo logo featured at the top of the card, the Kenner logo down in the bottom corner, and of course on the reverse side, some other figures available in the Vintage Collection. We'll be taking a look at Han Solo in my next review, so make sure you stay tuned for that, and hopefully there'll be some more Vintage Collection figures released in the future that I'll be able to review for you guys. So that is the packaging that Enfys comes in. Very nice indeed. Now let's take a look at the figure itself. Once again, very cool character design. I love the tribal aesthetic that this figure has. You've got these sort of bones on the necklace and on the chest decoration there. Looks very cool indeed. You've got the really nice cape, the fur. Really nice design. Absolutely love this character, and I really hope that we get to see more of her later on down the line. I think if Solo 2 was ever to come to fruition, or we got a Solo inspired series on Disney Plus, I think Enfys would be a great addition to that. And again, just very impressed with this character and her role in the film. The figure itself is very cool as well. Pretty much captures that really tribal-esque look that she has going on there. Really nice in terms of sculpt, paint applications and accessories, so we'll touch base on all of those in just a little bit. As I mentioned, we are going to compare this figure to its 5POA counterpart, and here it is. This is the version of Enfys that comes as part of the swoop bike vehicle set. Now, as you can see, there are some differences, not just in terms of the articulation, but in terms of the paint applications on this figure as well. Overall, the 5POA version from the Force Link line has a much darker look to it. You know, there's more black going on in terms of the costume. There are darker shades and darker colour palettes going on. And I think, if I'm being perfectly honest, other than the cape, I think I prefer the look of this figure more than the vintage release. I really do like the inner lining of the cape on this vintage version, which would have been a great addition to this figure. But in terms of the actual plastic that we get with this one, I love the 5POA version. One of the things that really irritates me actually about the Vintage Collection release is that while the Vintage Collection is supposed to feature, you know, premium articulation, premium paint deco, which for the most part this figure does, it misses out some screen accurate details. For example, the Arabesh on Enfys helmet. As you can see, she has this. It's not particularly easy to translate on the 3 3/4 inch figure because of the scale, but she's got that Arabesh text going on across the top of the helmet, which she actually has in the movie, but for whatever reason Hasbro decided to leave it out on the Vintage Collection release. I haven't yet attempted a head swap between these two figures. That's something that I may do at some point, but to be perfectly honest, this figure is perfectly adequate to ride the swoop bike. It's not like the added articulation on the vintage release has any benefit to riding the vehicle. This is fine. But again, in terms of that premium deco that we should get with the Vintage Collection, it's more apparent on the Force Link version of Enfys Nest, which is just perplexing in my opinion. It would have been really easy to include that detail, but for whatever reason Hasbro decided not to. Obviously, within the rest of the figure, details are very similar, but the articulation is drastically different. So let's touch base on that now. So first up, we do get, albeit a very restricted, ball joint at the head. As you can see, she's got all this decorative fur and what have you going on at the back of the helmet, which does restrict a little bit of movement. You've sort of got this figure permanently fixed in a looking down position, which is a little bit of a shame. If you turn the head to the side, you get a better angle, but it's difficult to pose, if I'm being honest. She does feature hinges at the shoulders, which are fine, you know, even despite this large fur trim on the back. That articulation is not restricted, which is good. You've got hinges at the elbows and at the wrists, a ball joint at the torso, nice fluid range of movement there, hinges at the hips, swivels at the upper thigh, hinges in the knees, and hinges at the ankles. So great articulation, just loses a few points for the lack of movement in the head, but due to the design and the way that this one's put together, it's easy to understand why that's been done. Now, in terms of accessories, she does come with this staff or vibro axe, which is really nicely sculpted. Could have done with a little bit of weathering, but we do get a little bit more paint going on this version than we do with the 6-inch Black Series release, which again is just a perplexing decision on Hasbro's part. What you've got here is a little bit of a darker tone towards the bottom of the staff. You've got the grips there painted, and then you've got some really nice sculpted detail on the blade itself. The cape, as you can see, is made of soft goods. It's a really nice thick material. It flows nicely. It doesn't look too oversized or too impractical, too goofy. So a really nicely designed and put together cape. Looks great on the figure, and again, I love this colour on the inside of the cape as it's black on the back. Now, in terms of additional accessories, she does come with a couple of swappable parts. You'll see these gauntlets on the wrists and forearms of the figure. These can actually be removed, and they can be swapped out with this extended, almost fan-like blade, which just attaches to the wrist like so, and looks very, very cool. This is obviously the way that you can display Enfys Nest in combat mode. This is the move that she deploys when she takes on Beckett and the gang on Vandor 1. Really, really cool scene in the movie. One of my favourite aspects of the film, if I'm being honest. And we do get 2 of these gauntlets, which are a little bit tricky to get in place. They do have a habit of falling out, which is a shame. But once you get them in place, they look very, very cool. And that's a great addition to this figure. One that's not included with the Force Link version that comes with the swoop bike. So that's an incentive to pick up this figure. Really, really does look the part, and I really hope that at some point down the line, be it in the 6-inch or the 3 3/4 inch scale, we get a few more of Enfys Nest's Cloud Rider gang released as action figures. We did get Weasel in the Mission to Vandor 1 multi-pack, which is a set that I've yet to pick up, but hope to do so very soon. But yeah, just a very, very cool figure. Great character design, great character overall, and a really nice action figure. Once again, I'll leave it up to you guys as to which one you think is the better version. The 5POA version, in terms of overall aesthetic, in my opinion, looks better, but in terms of functionality and playability, posability, all that good stuff, the Vintage Collection, as always, is the way to go. So that is going to do it for this review on Enfys Nest from the Vintage Collection. Once again, another character from Solo, A Star Wars Story. Had a few comments over the past few weeks from some collectors and fans who haven't yet seen Solo, and I've got to say, highly recommend you do so. It's a great film, really, really fun movie. Probably the most popcorn flick of the entire Star Wars saga. So if you haven't seen it, or you don't give it enough credit, give it a few more watches, go and see it. It's a fantastic film. So that is going to do it for this review. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll be back with more very soon. So until then, as always, thank you for watching, keep collecting, and may the force be with you.